For the longest time, we have said, you shouldn't build your own CMS. It's going to be a bag of hurt. But I'm here today to say that there's never been a greater time to build your own CMS. But first, you have to reevaluate your relationship with CMSs. Good afternoon, everyone. It's time to have a talk. But first, close your eyes. Yeah, really do it. What do you picture when I say the three words CMS, Content Management System? You probably picture, open your eyes again. Maybe you saw the abyss looking back at you, but most of you probably saw some fields that you can type some content into, and maybe you were imagining that 1,000-yard stare of requests that comes from your marketing team to change those fields for something. And at Sanity, we wanted to make this easy for you as developers to get through those requests by using the tools and abstractions you already know without the invisible cost of having to maintain a real-time content backend or slinging databases around and all of that stuff. And for years, we're giving you this as Sanity Studio, an easy content editing application. You can define it with code and get up and running in no time. But I bet none of you imagined this, a bunch of React hooks as your CMS. And today we're going to talk about how we at Sanity have broken up the CMS so you can break up with yours. Pause for laughter. Okay. We're going to also talk about why you would want to do this. So I'm Knut. I work at Sanity, and I've been obsessing with content operations longer than you probably think it's reasonable. And we have three sections today. First, what went wrong with CMSs? Like, why should you think about that? And then our friends at Morning Brew is going to come on and talk about their content operations and how custom content apps have changed the game for them. And then we're going to talk about how quickly you can get up and running with this stuff with the new App SDK and something called AI. Let's look into it. But first, there's a lot of reasons you don't love CMSs. The promise of the CMS was to get you out of the business of editing JSON files and pushing Markdown to Git on behalf of your content team, and give you that time back to solve the interesting problems you can solve as an engineer, while the content team is just pushing their content freely. And the reasons you might not love your CMS is that you still find yourself having to work around and against it to fit the workflows and the things that your content team needs to ship. So the system was supposed to give you the time back is now working against you, and it's coming back to haunt you. It's like a bad codependent relationship, and I wouldn't consider hacks a love language. And as a CMS developer couples therapist, having done web development for 20 years, I've seen this in every project I've worked on. All businesses are unique. They have unique teams, unique challenges that they need to solve with engineering. And no single vendor, not even Sanity, can make that perfect admin panel for everyone in their use case. And for a lot of the Headless CMSs out there, customizability is like an afterthought, something tacked on that you have to re-render the DOM in the browser, and it's awkward, and there's iframes and stuff. And what we also see is that developers have to click into the browser and essentially make a data model, the shape of the data in their APIs, by clicking around in forms and typing and so on with little predictability on how this data will look like. And then they have to lock down this section of the CMS, because if someone else comes in and just changes something, they break all the apps because of the API, right? No way to live. And then CMS is like, oh, we have APIs, we're multi-channel, blah, blah, blah. But if you look closer, there's a bunch of assumptions that oh, you're just using this content to render a web page. But lo and behold, oh, we need this content to go into emails and apps and syndication to Apple News and whatnot, and then you find yourself doing some crazy regex stuff to tease the content out of an HTML string because someone wants some border margin padding stuff in their front end. But good news, Sanity is not a CMS. Even though we get thrown into that conversation a lot, And we always found it a little bit awkward, because the reason Sanity exists in the first place is that we were super angry at CMSs. Sanity was born out of good old spite-driven development. Because to us, content is data. Content should come in a way that neatly maps to the props in your components, that you can freely query like you would do with a database, that you can programmatically update and run logic on, and reuse without duplication and all of that good stuff. And what happens when you start to look at content as data, you can make a lot of cool things like we have done throughout the years. Grok, like SQL for JSON, and portable text, which is a presentation agnostic specification for block content. So we view Sanity as a content operating system. But what is that exactly? At the core, the foundation, we have Content Lake. It's a schema-less database that that's optimized for content. You can pretty much store any JSON document in it, and it will be instantly queryable. We will index references between documents. You have referential integrity. You can do transactions, update, or nested value without overriding the whole document, a lot of stuff. And then outside of Content Lake, we have compute and AI. It's pretty recent, so you can run business logic in serverless functions that can be triggered by content changes, and then you can have agent actions using AI to react to those changes and do stuff automatically. And those agent actions understands your content model as well. And then most operating system has this, APIs and SDKs, so it's easier to work on top of these primitives and get your job done. Wherever you need the content from and to Content Lake and so on, you can use those APIs and SDKs to do it. And a recent addition to this is the Sanity App SDK. That lets you build custom content apps that's real-time, collaborative, and so on, without having to deal with all of that complexity that comes with this. But Knut, you're just inventing marketing buzzwords, aren't you? Like, content applications, that's hardly new, right? And that's fair. A lot of you have already built these content applications for years. And this is what we typically see with customers coming onto Sanity. They have like this monolithic CMS that drives the main websites, and then if you look behind it, there's like this swamp of custom apps and other CMS installs and stuff that just happened in its organization because someone didn't or couldn't or wouldn't kind of like hack around the main CMS. So it gives you all the maintenance debt and legacy systems, authentication and permissions is a pain. It's just like blah. Like content teams have to copy paste the same piece of string all over the place, and where is the login for that, and so on. And this kind of almost started to happen at Sanity as well, because we wanted to ship more content apps in addition to Sanity Studio, like Canvas, which is like an AI-powered freeform writing tools that can map freeform stuff into your content model, and Media Library, which is an asset management app. And we started to re-implement a lot of the logic we have already built in Sanity Studio. So we did what we often do, is to take that, and then we have customers coming on using Sanity, and they started to build custom dashboards and apps inside of the studio, which is super cool. But the Studio customization API was built to customize what's already there, not really to make new things from scratch. So they made calendars, they made maps, and like very bespoke table views for very specific workflows. So we did what we usually do at Sanity. We build primitives and abstractions that gives us more speed as a product org, and then we just give that to everyone, so we are playing on the same field. So the Sanity App SDK takes a bunch of things you need for content apps, put them into React hooks that you can easily use in your application. So the core of the SDK is framework agnostic, but we wanted to ship something that for the richest ecosystem, and someone said like never bet against React, so we didn't. So you can use pretty much anything in the React ecosystem with the App SDK. So it's a Headless library, so it means that you can bring your own component library. So if you want to use ShadCN, Shoutout, or Tailwind, or your company's bespoke component library, you should be able to do that. Want a table? Grab 10-stack table. Put your content into it. Or if you want like a map view of your location-related contents, you can grab a map from NPM. But before I show you how fast you can get up and running with this, I want to introduce you to our friends at Morning Brew, specifically Roshvan. They have been building, they're living this reality today, and their success is built on custom content apps and automated operations. And you don't have to take my word for it, luckily, because here is Roshvan, full stack developer at Morning Brew, and he's going to tell you how and why they make content apps.
Thanks, Knut, for introducing us to the app SDK, and highly recommend booking one of those CMS dev couples therapy sessions. They're worth it. Hello, everyone. I'm Roshvan, a software engineer at Morning Brew Inc. And in case you haven't heard of us, where have you been? But we're one of the most engaging media companies in the world. We've got the #1 business podcast on Spotify, and we've got a monthly 340 million footprint across all our platforms. That goes across newsletters and events, podcasts, and the web, and other places. And you'll see some of our brands show up there. Morning Brew, we are shipping a lot with little engineers. So we couldn't operate at the scale without the automation of how content is delivered and how our authors create it. So this is a team of over 250 people across editorial and events and operations, analytics, insights, pricing, account managers, sales, audience, all the folks that come together to build amazing content. And we do a lot. We've got a lot of brands. We send over 2 billion emails a year with 6 engineers. We ship all this. 2 of those teams that are really important for our content operations are the editorial team and the advertising team. And we've got custom built by Morning Brew for these teams' content applications, and we've given them names like they're real products internally. One of them is Astra. Don't go asking Sanity for it. They don't sell this one. Is the newsletter and the web home. So here we can create content for an email with custom components and different sections of a newsletter. So you can see some of the custom components there. So things like the newsletter sections are made up of stories and a footer and a header and ad placements from our partners that we work closely with. We've also got custom components that pull latest stock market data to fill that in for your morning newsletter. Another one that we've got is what we call Meteor. It's our ad management system. This is where advertising units are created and executed on. And so you'll see this custom built for Morning Brew for this team, a dashboard, and it's got the key details here, like the placement date, and ad copy, and links, and titles, and when the placement is running, and on which brand, and who's working on it, and tons of stuff there. We've got another custom built by Morning Brew for our partners, the Partner Desk application. This is the intake point for our partners, and so we built for them a custom content application that shows when their next placements are, what status their ad placements are in, and their partnership is in, and you can see kind of what that looks like there when it all comes together. But this is where we use structured forms, and we collect things like logos, the company information, any creative assets, sample copy, so that we can convey their message in the Morning Brew Inc. voice. And this is kind of what it looks like when it comes all together. So we've got that content lake in the middle, Astra, remember, the newsletter and web home, Meteor, the advertisement placement home, and then the Partner Desk, all pushing and pulling data from the content lake, and even across their own data sets, pushing and pulling media placements, ad placements, going from Meteor into Astra, the newsletter home, and things like the partner copy and the assets that they give straight into the placements. So there's a lot of fun stuff happening here, and we couldn't do this with a single general purpose CRM. And there's a lot of cool stuff happening here in the background. It's all built and deployed in Vercel and React. We're using serverless functions, webhooks from Sanity. There's a lot of fun and cool stuff happening here. And what that means for us is that we can ship new brands and launch in a day with these content applications and the automations that we have in place. it makes it easy for us. We can also get and create content immediately, so the writers aren't dependent on us. They can go out and write the amazing content that we all love and need. That allows us to get our subscribers immediately. We can spin up brands really fast, get folks subscribed so that we can deliver the content that they wait for. And all of that means that we're just not a blocker to content operations. We have seamless content operations for all the work that we ship today, and then we're set up well for our new brand launches and what we want to do tomorrow. And with that, I'll invite Knut back onto the stage and to show you how you can get started to create content apps.
Thank you so much, Roshvan. This kind of stuff is why I get up and go to work every day, and going to work is going from the bedroom to like the living room where the desk is. Anyways, so we have talked a lot about the what and the why, and now we're going to look at the how. So let's build a content application. And we wanted to see if we could like one-shot this with AI. And we did this with Claude Code, which I guess is like so last week or something. But you can do this with V0 or Cursor or what have you. And let's say you have some content and you have like this form where your audience can give you feedback on that content. Typically, you see this on doc sites and educational stuff and so on. And that will kind of like write that feedback back to Content Lake with a reference to the content that was given feedback on. And if you look in the Sanity Studio, it will create this list of feedback stuff and the form, and you can go through it. But we want to make like something that's a little bit quicker for a human to process. We want like a custom table view. So that is like the mission, the thing we gave to Claude. With the docs, we are LLM-friendly docs. You can copy as Markdown and so on. This is sped up because we don't want to usually sit here for 8 minutes. So basically, here's Claude Code doing that work, so I don't have to. Then I can be on Slack and whatnot. And here you can see it kind of like start to kind of build this out. And in a few seconds, we'll see what the end result is. You won't be disappointed, I guess. So here the custom app is on the one side, and it has its editable fields, everything. And then on the other side, you see Sanity Studio, and everything gets updated in real time. So no race conditions between humans and AI and stuff. And what is cool is that you can also deploy functions with agent actions to pre-process this feedback. So like take the sentiment column. Perfect thing for an AI to kind of like look for the feedback. Is this positive, negative, constructive, whatever it is. So yeah, that's how quickly you can get up and running. If you look at the code a little bit more zoomed in, you can see here, this is how you fetch data, real time. It's one hook, feed it into the table, and there we are. That is like what you, so easy. And then to make that field editable, another hook, use edit documents. Like, I don't think we can make it simpler than this. And again, you don't have to think about state management and so on, because that's taken care of. So Sanity App SDK distills the CMS behaviors into React hooks, and gives you real-time multiplayer optimistic updates out of the box, in addition to a lot of other hooks that you would kind of want to do when we make more complex applications. So you came here maybe trapped in a relationship with a CMS. And at Sanity, we want you to go from being like a CMS maintainer to become a content operation engineer, where you can architect solutions, not hacks and patches and stuff, where you can define content workflow in code and not in browser forms, and build what your business actually needs to do to ship it. And you're leaving with the tools to build something better. Like Morning Brew did this with 6 engineers, actually 4, they told me. So with this stuff, what will you build when your CMS isn't the bottleneck anymore? So you can try out the Sanity App SDK today. You can find more out on sanity.io/ship, or if you're at the conference, you can also meet us at the lounge and talk to us. We would be really curious to hear what you have to say about this. Thank you all for listening.